Welcome back to our program. I am Wu Ruiguo. In this segment, we will continue our conversation with Mr. Paul Xu, who is the chairman and CEO of FICO's International Company and also the president of Epoch Foundation in Taiwan. Paul, I'm going to start off this segment by asking you about our big neighbor next door, China. For the past 15 or 20 years, I think a lot of people have been discussing or preoccupied with the issue of the rise of China.
Yeah.
And now, after 15, 20 years, at least economically, China is already risen, and it's now at least a regional economic power, if not a global economic power. So people often say that it should not be G20 summit meeting anymore. It should be just G2, meaning the United States and China only. Given that we're so geographically close to China, our next door neighbor, and with the rise of China, how do you see the relationship, particularly in terms of your area's expertise, soft power, and also in terms of your experiences accumulated over the years in commercial sector of the economy? That how do you think the rise of China will impact Taiwan's future development?
Right. Now, first of all, we analyzing China and her future.
Yes.
We should really look at a couple of factors that I don't hear too many people have been mentioning.
Okay.
Certainly, China is rising at a tremendous speed.
Yes.
But thinking about China's future economic development, you will find most of the big companies and almost all the big banks, all the banks are state-owned. Even they call themselves a shareholding company, but the biggest shareholder is still the government.
Exactly.
Okay? Now, which is totally different from that of Taiwan. And many years ago, we also had a state-owned company. And now we come to consensus. Our state-owned company are not profit-making and is overburdened with a lot of non-business-like activities and all
obligations.
Obligation. Now, but Taiwan's success is really based on the private sector.
Exactly.
And Taiwan private sector has made tremendous investment in China. I heard many figures. One figure that I personally believe is over $300 billion of Taiwan's cumulative investment in China, which is much bigger than the publicly announced figure of the official figure of Taiwan government and the Chinese government. Okay?
Yes.
So you look at this area, we say, Taiwan's private sector, we identify just a few minutes ago that they have a lot of soft power, right? And now they are one of the key investors in China market.
Yes.
Yeah, 300 billion, if the number is true, is not a small amount.
Very formidable. Yes.
But there's another characteristic. It's totally diversified.
Into different areas.
In different areas.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I think in the future, domestic demand of China, China also need to encourage their own private sector to emerge.
Okay. Okay.
Now, how to run a private sector business is very different from running a state-owned business. So this is how we can influence
the future development of China.
Future development.
And do you think that most recently we see a lot of intensive interactions and exchanges, at least on the economic front, between the two sides?
Well, you look at those exchanges; it's very interesting.
Yes.
On the Taiwan side, most of them are private sector company. On the China side, most of them are state-owned company. So how we change that balance in the future? The only answer is to help China to boost their private sector.
Yes, and on that front, Paul, do you have any recommendations in terms how can we draw from our own experiences in the past 15, 20 years and try to help unleash?
Of course, it's the private sector, the business, every penny of the money is their own, so they have to use it very prudently.
Yes.
Where a state-owned company, of course, naturally has a lot of waste. And not mentioning corruption and all that.
Exactly.
So I would give a sort of general remark that if we look at the future changes of China, I think there will be a lot of opportunity for Taiwan to interchange with China or their businessmen. To help them to make a difference.
Yes. So a lot of people say that the engagement policy that we have in the past year since President Ma Ying-jeou came into office, to try to engage China, at least economically, and deepen the economic cooperation between the two sides, really, in the views of Beijing, may be a double-edged sword. Of course, there's profit to be made, but also at the same time, like you said, the engagement with Taiwan business sector, the private sector, will help their counterparts in China realize that, hey, there are many things that we can learn from our small neighbor next door. And, maybe there is a fundamental change budding.
Well, I would say if the leaders in China has vision, or future leaders in China have better vision, they should encourage their own private sector to emerge. And private sector, that means utilizing the mass Chinese brain through education, through entrepreneurship. Actually, along this line, let's go back to what we talked about a while ago. So all these soft power elements will be useful in China's future development. So we have to help our Chinese counterpart to also develop the so-called soft power. And I think the changes of China in the future is something we should closely watch. And I actually read a lot of Chinese scholars saying the same thing. They think the sustaining economic development of China will be depending on the private sector.
So do you then see a role, Paul, for Taiwan, maybe as a catalyst, in terms of helping China to develop its, to understand the tremendous resources in soft power that it has, and also unleash those resources?
Of course, more engagement is better. But I have to correct your statement earlier. You said, President Ma has helped the engagement, between public
the two sides. Public sector,
But private sector has long time ago began to engage.
Even during the DPP years.
Even before that.
And also the fact that even though at the time the DPP has a very closed-door policy towards China, but the private sector, the investment still went up.
Has a long history of engagement. And I have to give some credit to those private sector. And they have helped to enhance a friendly atmosphere.
And also the positive momentum that we see. And also recently we've seen on television in the news programs that there are being delegations of Chinese visitors who have visited, for example, our hospitals and discovering firsthand the Taiwan healthcare system, how it works, how can they in the future learn from the experience.
Not only that, I think the Chinese visitor to Taiwan, they are most impressed by our lifestyle. And how to analyze our lifestyle, sometimes could be very easy, but sometimes could be very difficult. For instance, simple thing like people would line up in front of movie theater, line up in front of bus stop. That's something impressed a lot of
Chinese tourists.
Chinese friends are visiting Taiwan.
And also
simple thing like that. Then other things, of course, is when they have a first-hand contact with the daily life that we have. Now we don't pay too much attention because we're used to it. But when they look at it, say, wow, everybody can criticize everybody. Yes. That's something very new to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is something that they never experienced before.
Yeah.
Then how do you think that in the future maybe the government, our government here, can change and alter its policy, towards China, and maybe include a component on the rise of the, soft power in Taiwan, and try to help the Chinese?
I don't see government
doing too
even
much.
Need to play too much role.
Okay.
Now, government should remove an obstacle.
Okay.
That's all.
Be a facilitator.
Yeah, because we have very smart people here. They know how to. On the other side, they have very smart people too. So for two smart people get together, they got to come up with some better solution.
Exactly. We're going to take another short break, and we'll be right back to the Taiwan Outlook. And in the next segment, we'll widen our scope a little bit, and we're going to talk about the international arena where Taiwan's soft power can really play a role. We'll be back shortly.